a century ago, a man reflects on the decades of turmoil and prosperity. The opportunity of earning great wealth draws resourceful people from far away. The invasion of foreign banks leads to soul-searching among China's financial community. A Peking opera master witnesses the rise of a business legend who creates China's first mall. The legacy of foreign concessions helps Tianjin evolve into a city of business. Day, this more than 2-kilometer-long street was home to more than 60 Chinese and foreign banks, firms, and shops. The scale and density of the buildings was unique in China. Using bricks, stone, clay, and wood, colonial officials and companies built edifices of various styles. The lintels and columns display different expressions. Number 157 on North Jiefang Road boasts an impressive past. Jardine Matheson, at one time the #1 foreign firm in China, established itself here over a century ago. As one of Britain's biggest consortiums in the Far East, Jardine Matheson dominates many industries, including commerce, shipping, warehousing, and manufacturing. In 1860, Tianjin opens to the outside world as a trading port. Europeans see a huge market and rich resources in northern China. The first foreign firm to move into the British concession is Jardine Matheson. Li Zhonghan was only 19 when he first entered the offices of Jardine Matheson. "74 years ago, he came to work at what was considered a dream job by many young people at that time.
这颐和洋行的名字呢，叫 Jardine Matheson and Company Limited。我在布考会是管进口财务现款账，叫 Import Cash Book。另外还管收账单、收的房子叫 Debit Note， 我打 Debit Note， 一个月打30多个 Debit Note。
One event, known to all the staff at Jardine Matheson, remains fresh in Li's memory.
这就是轮船部，轮船部的经理叫梁惠武，他是大买办梁延庆的大儿子。到这儿以后，就叫人给绑了，绑票以后就是个大案件，天津市报纸上铺天盖地都在报道这个事儿。
The kidnapping shocked Tianjin in the 1930s. The director of Tianjin Public Security Bureau handles the case personally. But it ends with the death of the victim and no clues as to who is responsible. This footage shows Liang Yanqing's family amusing themselves at the British Club. The gray-haired man is Liang Yanqing. Movie cameras are luxuries, and it's rare for private family life to be filmed. The kidnapping takes place 6 months later. Liang Yanqing's total wealth is difficult to estimate. His stock and bond portfolio alone is worth more than $160 million in today's currency. And this is only one component of his wealth. This wealth comes from his experience as a comprador at Jardine Matheson. In 1861, a British merchant ship docks at the west bank of the High River. It's the first time Jardine Matheson lands at this promising spot. The company hopes to exchange a boatload of foreign goods for silver.
在西方商人看来啊，天津开埠就意味着中国北方的大门打开了。比如说吧，进口洋布。那么北方呢，人多天冷。 在洋商看来啊，一人买10布，他们就发了大财了。可是事实呢，却不是这样。中国老百姓呢，一般都自己织衣服，勤俭持家，很少有人去买洋布做衣服。洋商刚来就撞了个大钉子。
There is also the inconvenience of exchanging currencies, language barriers, different ways of doing business, and other problems plaguing the foreign traders. The compradors arrive to provide their services. They speak English fluently and enjoy a dual identity as employees of foreign firms as well as independent merchants. They originated in the period when Guangzhou was the only trading port in China. As new ports open, these entrepreneurs follow. Liang Yanqing is one of them.
洋行啊与买办之间呢，实行的是大承包制。什么是大承包制呢？比如说吧，这个不论是进口的洋货和出口的土货，只要它到了中国市场这一块，风险完全由买办来承担。如果生意成功了，那买办就可以得到 可观的佣金，生意失败了，那么洋行就要扣除买办的抵押的保证金。
The contracting out system is used by the foreign firms to reduce risk. But to the compradors, risk means profit. They seek profit in the price differences. This is the secret of Liang Yanqing's great wealth. "800 kilometers from Tianjin lies Baotou in Inner Mongolia. It sits on the boundary between nomadic and agrarian culture on the Central Plains. The sun, grasslands, flocks of sheep and herders are the immutable images of life here. However, the arrival of compradors over 100 years ago changes things. As Liang Yanqing painstakingly arranges a supply of goods for Europe, new opportunities arise in North America. The Pacific Railway now runs across the United States. The trains trigger a ripple effect across the ocean. The U.S. had a great need for fine quality sheepskin. It was used to upholster train compartments. Seeing this huge business opportunity, Liang shifts his attention to the northern grasslands. He firmly believes that in the high quality but inexpensive sheepskin, there is a vast fortune to be made. He decides to go to Baotou.
洋行呢，在包头收购皮毛呀，这个数量是非常巨大的，大约应该每年2000多万斤皮毛运到天津。 那么天津呢，有的直接到了洋行，又到了花账坊这些买办的手里边，然后呢，再把京津的日用品啊、洋布等驮上，然后回来。包头有句话叫“皮毛一动，百业俱兴”。
The rise of compradors changes things in many ways. Within a few years, Baotou becomes a key trading city and a distribution center for animal products from northwestern China. After drying and tanning, sheepskin is then exported. This profitable trade route was developed by Liang Yanqing and soon became Tianjin's major channel for exporting commodities. According to statistics compiled in 1930, the export of animal products in Tianjin amounts to over 60% of the output of the entire nation. Liang Yanqing becomes incredibly wealthy. Jardine Matheson's old warehouse is now the Tianjin Creative Industry Center. The modeled characters on the wall record the prosperity of the past. In 1939, many foreign firms bloomed in Tianjin, and Jardine Matheson was the leader of them all.
澳大利亚产面粉最多，甜瓜的面粉那时候不都是甜瓜的，成本1块钱一袋，50斤的1块钱一袋，到这儿卖2块钱，赚多少钱？一船30万袋，那时候30万呢，1万块钱买一所养老，你说这30万多少钱？
Jardine Matheson's success in Tianjin attracted competitors. Jardine Matheson was well established in Tianjin when another British firm claimed its place along the same street. It set up shop a mere 300 meters from Jardine Matheson. This building is all that's left in Tianjin of John Swire and Sons. A commercial war broke out 100 years ago, beginning at John Swire and Sons headquarters in London. The model of a merchant ship in the lobby makes the origin of this company clear to all visitors. Shipping is closely related with trade and wealth. The company's album contains many stories about Tianjin.
The agency in Tianjin will look for whatever possibilities there are. One of those possibilities very often becomes sugar. And it just became that the sugar was a cargo. It was useful for filling the vessels from Hong Kong, from South China, all the way up the coast. So our vessels were travelling full one way, and they were travelling full the other.
Historic details often trigger interesting thoughts. A century ago, stevedores are busy unloading large bags from a vessel. Children playing nearby see sparkling white particles spill from the bags. The sweet taste the children discover originates more than 9,000 kilometers away. This is the first batch of sugar imported into Tianjin by John Swire and Sons. John Swire and Sons and Jardine Matheson are competitors for years. Sugar is Jardine Matheson's traditional bulk commodity, but John Swire and Sons wants a share of the profit.
We did things differently than Jardine Matheson. We kept ownership of the sugar until it was sold. The sugar would be shipped to Tianjin, it would then be moved onwards inland. It would go to the retailers, to the distributors, to the grocers, to the shopkeepers.
Zhong Yizhe is a colleague of Liang Yanqing. He's a junior comprador. He travels all over China to develop sales channels for Swire sugar. He looks for retail outlets and checks inventories. This 20-year-old man seeks the kind of success Liang Yanqing has achieved. He's got a keen eye for a good opportunity. The trade in sugar is a commercial war. The two foreign firms compete vigorously with each other. After a few years, however, Jardine Matheson concedes defeat. Swire takes over the entire market for sugar in northern China. A competitive decision by Swire leads to the creation of Taikou sugar, which is still a popular brand today. Imports of Taikou sugar do more than just sweeten confections. Tianjin begins to share the rewards of industrial civilization along with the major cities of other nations. The high river has narrow channels and serious problems from the buildup of silt, but the waterway is good for salt and grain transportation. A few years after Tianjin opens as a trading port, foreign merchant ships begin arriving in great numbers. They create hustle and bustle on the river. During the peak season, ships crowd the shipping lanes, leading to disputes and conflict. This turmoil is observed by Zhang Yizhe, a man with huge aspirations and great determination.
The river was narrow, and anything larger than 300 feet long couldn't turn in the river. Here is one of our vessels called the Pouting, and this vessel is turning. It was quite a complicated. If you got out of, if it went more than that, then there was a chance that the vessel could get stuck and block the river.
Zhang finds the opportunity he is looking for. He suggests to Swire that smaller ships be built, and his recommendation is adopted. Soon, Swire's fleet of cargo ships multiplies into a huge barge business. The smaller barges navigate along the river easily. The flexible body of the vessels allows them to come and go all day. Money pours into Swire's coffers. This profit leads to Zhang being promoted in 1887 to chief comprador of Swire's Tianjin branch. The 26-year-old is now a legend among all the compradors in China. Such scenes are typical on the high river in the 19th century. Cargo piles up at the docks, and the flags of several countries are seen along the river. Between 1880 and 1900, the total volume of trade in Tianjin is approximately $30 billion in today's money. Behind this extraordinary figure is the power of capital and economic transformation. This city, once a fortress protecting the imperial capital, is now the trading center for northern China.
Because it brought foreign practices, foreign companies into Tianjin, and it also established ways in which Tianjin was integrated structurally into global trading routes. It also made Tianjin much more familiar to people overseas as a place. So it was a city people had heard of as well.
International trade not only brings great prosperity, but also financial trouble. The huge amount of capital turnover and exchange has an impact on the old-style Chinese private banks and money shops. There is the threat of a serious deadlock. This is the Chinese Museum of Finance on North Jiefang Road. Every weekend, 88-year-old Liu Zhongqin comes here to tell children the stories of old-style Chinese private banks. At the age of 14, Leo took a job in a private bank. During his career, he witnessed the financial transformation that came to this city.
那时候这个小钱庄、小银行，它没有那从人才、从设备、从还有国有关系，它建不了这个业务往来关系，它不可能有外汇业务。
133 years ago, HSBC opens its Tianjin branch at number 82 Jiefang Road, the first foreign bank in the city. HSBC adopts a brand new modern financial model for its activities in this city. Prior to 1881, Tianjin's banks did not have the capacity to handle international currency exchange. The arrival of HSBC forces Tianjin's financial industry to adopt more modern international conventions. Outside HSBC every day, they hang a small blackboard listing foreign currency exchange rates.
汇丰银行是靠这种股份制募集到大量的资金，所以它的实力很雄厚，它可以为在天津的这些外资的这种，比如洋行还有企业。 来提供资金支持，同时呢，也可以完成他们的这种国际汇兑业务。外资的进入，在天津呢，金融市场上呢，也就形成了一个外汇的交易市场。
HSBC takes control of the international exchange business in Tianjin, and then it plans to expand. The bank wants to increase its commitment in China, with Tianjin as the springboard. In the fall of 1881, a man from southern China became a key contributor to HSBC's expansion. Wu Tiaoqing arrives from Shanghai to become the chief comprador of HSBC in Tianjin. At that time, the self-strengthening movement is growing and increasingly in urgent need of funds. Wu was a friend of Governor Li Hongzhang, and the latter holds Wu in high regard. This helps HSBC obtain lending authority in the early days of China's railway construction.
吴调卿来到了天津汇丰之后，积极地打开局面。从清政府到北洋政府，汇丰总共给中国政府提供了78笔贷款，累计金额达到了3亿3千多两。那么中国政府呢，则把这个关税和盐税作为贷款抵押，落到了汇丰银行手里。
On the recommendation of Li Hongzhang, Wu becomes chief comprador of the general office of the Tianjin-Shanhaiguan Railway. Wu's dual identity as a comprador and a government official allows him to promote railway construction in China while helping the British make big money. Following HSBC's example, other foreign banks enter Tianjin one after another. By the 1930s, 17 foreign banks operate in the city. Their total assets amount to 21% of the assets of the entire banking industry in the city. 18% is in the hands of HSBC. Vivian Beatrice Hunt returns to Tianjin from New Zealand with her children after an absence of 65 years. As a young woman, her first job is secretary to the manager of HSBC's Tianjin branch. Her youthful days become fresh in her mind as she enters this place. The elegant pillars, intricate ceilings, and chandeliers revive her memories of working here.
I have a very, very strong feeling of warmth towards China and Chinese people. I like Chinese people. It's a great trip, special trip. So I'm very glad to be here. And tomorrow we have to go home. So I will be sad again.
Tianjin attracts people from various countries. In the 1920s, the 1 million strong population of Tianjin includes more than 10,000 foreign residents. Many are legendary gold seekers. "70 years ago, this building caught the eye of everyone on this street with its fashionable and modern design. It seems a man who created such a building possesses special skills to achieve success in a city of such fierce competition." The man in the ad is the creator of the famous Leopold building, Marcel Leopold. When he arrives in Tianjin, he's penniless. He wanders along this street in search of opportunity.
李亚普这人很会经营。1928年，他办了一个很小的利华洋行，凭借着他的瑞士护照，对外宣称的经营钟表兼营珠宝，而且他雇了2个白鳄给他充门面，可实际上在后边干活的却是一位中国工匠。就依靠这个洋行，他赚到了第一桶金。
He begins to sell jewelry and earns 2 million francs in just 1 year. The times are changing, and the previously illustrious noble families are no longer powerful. Women at the top of society sell their jewelry to maintain the luxurious lifestyles they're accustomed to. Leopold, a handsome European gentleman, seizes his opportunity and becomes their favorite jewelry buyer. The jewelry brings surprising profits. Leopold's ambition grows with his thriving business. He rents an office from HSBC and plays the role of successful businessman around the city. This has a magical effect. Its location leads people to believe his firm is affiliated with HSBC. He now appears to have unlimited power and influence. Business snowballs. "13 years after he set foot in Tianjin, the 43-meter-tall Leopold building went up here. This is the place for people of exceptional ability in business to shine on the commercial stage. Tianjin becomes a city of business, creating its own legends throughout the ups and downs of the decades. As time passes and more foreign banks open in Tianjin, people wonder about the future of the Chinese financial industry. They ponder its capacity to survive foreign competition and modernize whether it should retreat before a crisis brews up or take a more bold approach. People like to get to the antique market on Shenyang Road before sunrise. Every Thursday, collector Li Gang comes here to try his luck. A unique bank check catches his interest.
当时啊，看到这个东西时，我心情砰砰直跳。就是这个东西，大家都知道北四行，可北四行出现在同一张支票上，这还是很少见的。
These four banks are competitors, so it seems very unusual their names would appear on the same check. The four northern banks originate from a bold and creative idea in financial history. The idea comes from the banker in this photo. Huang Yiju lives overseas for years, and the experience makes him understand that capital is the lifeline of a nation's economy. He is keenly aware of the advantages and disadvantages foreign domination brings to the Chinese capital market. He decides to return to China and establish a large national capital financial institution. At about that time, the First World War begins, and European powers are too busy to focus on their affairs in China. Dramatic changes are happening throughout the world. Huang seizes this chance to reshuffle things in his favor. He establishes the China and South Sea Bank in Shanghai. He soon opens a branch in Tianjin. Business, currency circulation, and the issuance of banknotes are the goals of many banks. His identity as an overseas Chinese gives Huang the chance to ask for permission to print banknotes. This leads to the emergence of China and South Sea Bank bonds. But Huang has mixed feelings about them.
发行货币，一方面呢，它可以扩大银行拥有的货币量；另外一方面呢，还可以扩大银行的影响力。但是呢，一旦货币的发行数量大大超过它的 货币准备金，那么呢，对银行的存在就会有风险。
Competing against well-funded foreign banks makes it difficult for Chinese banks to make a breakthrough. An alliance is the bold plan Huang conceives. After tireless lobbying and a lot of persuasion, the other three Chinese banks finally agreed to invest capital. A savings society called Four Northern Banks is established in Tianjin. The first action of the Four Northern Banks is extraordinary. Every week, information about the financial strength of the savings society is published in newspapers. This helps build its reputation. The alliance gives the banks the financial power to face foreign competition. Despite encountering three financial storms, the four northern banks remain firm and unshakable. They become even stronger after each setback. In the transition to an era of modern finance, the Chinese and foreign banks become competitors. The financial center of northern China is finally taking shape. The opening of Tianjin to foreigners creates a flourishing trade along the middle reaches of the Hai River. The old business center also develops along the river. The famous century-old shops start moving southward, with a new business center growing in the concessions. This business wave helps fulfill one man's dream. The shopping mall That large-scale, multifunction, and one-stop shopping experience is now a key representative of urban culture. More than 80 years ago in Tianjin, this business model created a new shopping experience. Kuping Street is now one of the busiest shopping streets in the city. The Tianjin Bazaar integrates business and entertainment. It created memories for several generations of people and still remains a landmark of Tianjin. The magic mirrors in the market date back over 80 years. As it opens for business, endless Western novelties in the bazaar attract everyone in Tianjin. The feeling of freshness is beyond imagination. It's not only a place for shopping, but also for fun and amusement. People do not have to change locations to satisfy different needs. The man who created this bazaar is Gao Xingqiao. In his early years, Gao works hard, earns the recognition of his German boss, and is promoted to sales manager. He becomes a comprador and makes his first fortune. Wealth must be maintained and nurtured. Gao invests in building shopping malls. The first step in establishing a shopping mall is in selecting a good location. To find a perfect spot, Gao carefully searches the streets on a map to ensure that no opportunity is missed. Finally, an empty parcel of land catches his attention. His gaze lands on the tramcar lines on the map.
这个电车呢，一直可以从天津城乡区通到日租界，通到法租界，通到现在劝业场这一带，然后呢，拐过弯来，通往这个解放桥，通往东站，又转回去通往城乡区。这样呢，就使得这个电车道通的地方，商业就发达起来了。
The calculation of customer flow is done with soybeans. At major intersections, whenever someone goes by, an observer puts a soybean in his pocket. Gao discovers that Pear-Inn Street is the best sector. It's this unique statistical methodology that leads to the creation of the Tianjin Bazaar. An entire page of this pictorial in 1928 consists of ads for the opening of the Tianjin Bazaar. It represents a brand new type of commercial operation. Gao's strategy is to integrate entertainment, relaxation, and shopping to attract customers. He attracts merchants with the grand scale of his plans and the busy downtown location. Tianjin Bazaar is the culmination of his dreams. It encourages others to develop commerce on a much larger scale. Not far from the bazaar, one shopping mall in the French concession, Tianjin, feels the threat. On one occasion, the owner of Tianjin tells Gao, "Your bazaar is nothing. How can it be a match for Tianjin?" Hearing this remark, Gao channels his anger into even greater determination. In the world of business, competition never stops. To beat Tianjin, Gao not only makes the bazaar's building higher, but also integrates various forms of entertainment into the bazaar. Over a span of 86 years, Tianjin Grand Theater in the Bazaar never closes. For many people in this city, it's the home of treasured childhood and adult memories. In its prime, the stage attracted flocks of theatergoers, just as concerts today draw crowds of young people. This old list of famed opera stars includes Zhang Chunhua. Zhang is now a 90-year-old Peking opera master. This old man has stories to tell of his 50 years of performing on the stage of this grand theater. One time, they even adapt the story of Robin Hood into a Peking opera and stage it at the theater.
哎呀，那不那个红的不，那是电影啊！看美国片儿，看完了你看京戏，那个马，那骑着一匹白马，那个是没有到现在哪个台上跑真马，就是电话机盖了帽了。
Gao racks his brains to find ways to stimulate audience attendance and comes up with surprising ideas, unconventional content, and other innovations. The cheers and applause from the audiences draw waves of people into the shopping mall.
高新桥他晚上到后台来，坐在5楼化妆室，他椅子往那一坐，谁是上去洗脸，叫他一声爷爷。这个时候，从前台5楼来一个茶访，他来干什么？他就向高新桥报告一句：明天包厢没了，24个箱没了，那就是整个的天华境楼上楼下全满。
Witnessing the success of the Tianjin Bazaar, other businessmen try their best to compete. The ads in the streets declare the start of another round of commercial warfare. Within a dozen years, the legendary bazaar encourages the creation of various kinds of businesses in the area, including department stores, entertainment, and food venues. The bazaar district drives the transition of business in Tianjin. The disintegration of old business areas and the rise of new ones push the city faster along the road of development. Tianjin is turning into an incomparable capital of business in the north. As Hai River winds through the city of Tianjin, it witnesses a city constantly creating new stories. Grace Wang is the general manager of a Dutch shipping company. She's in charge of the company's business in northern China. Every day, her drive to work is like passing through a gallery of time. This river is a witness to a century of the commercial and trade history of Tianjin. Dagu Port was once coveted by colonial powers in the 19th century. Now it's flourishing as northern China's biggest seaport. Here at the port of Tianjin, the sunshine is especially bright and warm. Wang arrives early. She is here to host the maiden voyage ceremony for the company's brand new 40,000-ton cargo vessel, the Nile Dutch Breda. The crew of this vessel are from different countries and, perhaps, they do not fully understand why this harbor is the home port. But it's clear that Tianjin will be their second home. Night falls, and the reception dinner for the maiden voyage is underway. The Astor Hotel, built in 1863, still displays its elegance and magnificence. Grace Wang walks through the well-lit banquet hall as the company's impressive new vessel is on its way to far-off Africa. The river and sea continue to determine the destiny of Tianjin. The water of the Hai River flows through the city to mingle with salt water of the Bohai Sea. The river is the gateway to a vast ocean. Over a century ago, a court in London hears the details of a conspiracy to take over a Chinese mine. A young Chinese chemist ends a technological blockade and helps create a new industrial age. A man with a dream of building a new future for his country starts down the road to success in a small textile factory.